My name is Adam. I'm one of the senior managers at BFBS. And as I was listening to that brilliant talk, I was struck by two fairly massive mistakes I've made about today. One is just how much swearing I had planned to include in my talk. But I didn't quite appreciate the amount of children that would be present. So I can only apologise if this changes your child's first word. Yeah, sorry about that. In fact, why not? Let's just go for it. So my daughter, her first word was tits. And she quite quickly realised that this would get a laugh from adults. So if we were in restaurants or if we were in a public place, you know, the waiter might come over and go, "Oh, look at this lovely darling child. Aren't you sweet?" And she'd go, "Yes, tits." And it would always get a laugh. So we say, "Yes, Isla, chips." So I apologise for that. Yeah, I apologise for the swearing, but you know what? I think it's an important message, so I'm going to keep swearing. The other mistake I've made is that I usually use this slide. I would ask you to tweet me, and I now feel a little bit awkward asking you to do that with the Facebook guy in the audience, but I can only reassure you, Andy, it's nothing personal. I always use this slide. I'm not having a dig. So if you'd like to tweet me while I'm talking, please do. Just be careful, because there is another Adam Waters out there who is this fat American guy who lost loads of weight, and he keeps posing online in his underwear. And the annoying thing is, he's better at digital than I am, and he gets on every new network and website before I do. So that's why I've got the slightly clunky username. So I wanted to start off with a quote. Is anyone watching RuPaul's Drag Race? Any fans? Yeah? So I read this interview, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, "My biggest hurdle in life had been my own limited perception of myself." He was talking about how earlier in his career, he had really low confidence and didn't believe in himself. And it took a really long time to realise this. And the thing that was holding him back, as he said, was his own limited perception of himself. He said most people don't want to hear the truth of what they are. They have little self-knowledge of what it would take to go to the front of the line. Now, of course, we all face really hard times in our life, and sadly, there are also sometimes people who want to hold us back. But one of the things I find really frustrating is that so often people are really bad at judging how much talent and potential they have. And it really saddens me because, you know, what a sad thought that you could do something really positive and worthwhile for yourself, and the only thing that stopped you was perhaps a negative thought in your mind that said, "No, you couldn't do that." And it's bollocks, frankly. But that really stuck with me. And we've talked a lot about the power of ideas today. So this was my grandfather, Mac, and you might notice he's certainly a lot shorter than the other guys. He signed up, I think he was about 14 in this photo. He was a Chindit and he was in the Paras. But my family, particularly my grandfather, he grew up in absolute poverty. And he, at the time, lived in Brixton, and Brixton wasn't the sort of fashionable place it is now. And yeah, my family had a really hard time. He tried lots of different things after the Second World War. He was a taxi driver. I think he was a door-to-door salesman at one point. But one day, he had an idea. And that idea, I don't know how he came up with it, was to start selling air tools out the back of his car. And over time, that grew into a successful business. The girl on the horse is my mother. He was able to move his family out of the council home they lived in and buy his daughter, my mother, a horse. Remarkable. And that idea and that, I suppose, bravery of let's just start selling some air tools out the back of a car had this positive effect that's lasted generations that fundamentally changed my family. Now, my grandfather didn't have any fancy qualifications, didn't have any contacts, didn't have any money. He just started selling tools out the back of a car. And that really stays with me, and I often look at this photo to remind myself of the power of having an idea and then just trying to do something about it can be so effective. And I just have to say, as a parent, I do not mind visitors on the stage. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So, look at that. Very effective. My favourite was always the rugby ball technique, you know, the arm underneath. At BFBS, we do some training with lots of people, and some, I suppose, quite senior people. And here's a picture of me in the Foreign Office pointing at a picture trying to look clever. And these are ambassadors. So I train the ambassadors at the Foreign Office in social media. Some of the other people I train are the Major Generals at Sandhurst. And the thing that struck me so much about training these people, and in fact anyone, no matter how senior or clever or successful, they had one thing in common: fear. You know, particularly in the army, you know, the army's case, these are people who have led people into battle, are responsible for many people's lives. The ambassadors are responsible for representing our country. But the thought of sending a tweet would often make them quite nervous. And I don't say that to make fun of them, because I understand that it is very nerve-wracking. But social media is a wonderful, powerful thing. We've heard about how people want to connect with you, how they want to see who you are and your authentic self, and those are positive, wonderful messages. But perhaps there is a slightly scary side to that. You're asking me to put myself out there into the world. That can be quite scary. And I wanted to tell you this, that even these very senior people feel the same way. Not necessarily about social media, it could be about doing a media interview. And so, if you feel that way, you are not alone. Now, has anyone heard the phrase imposter syndrome before? Yeah? Would one confident, brave soul be willing to shout out what it means to them? Exactly. And so in my career, I'm putting my hand up, there have been times where I felt I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing, I've blagged it into this, everyone's going to catch me out. And I would just ask you, if you've ever felt that way in your life, could you put your hand up, please? Well, how telling is that? Could you also please keep your hands up? And could I ask you to look around and remember this? And I realized a really fundamental truth, that because you might feel that way, it doesn't mean it's true. And in fact, if you do feel that way, it kind of shows you're doing the right thing. You're trying something a bit scary, but maybe it's worth trying anyway. I think bravery isn't a lack of this. It's feeling afraid and thinking, well, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, and it's going to be bloody scary. I think when it comes to social media in particular, but you know, most things, I think there's three thoughts that keep coming up. I'll do something wrong. I will launch my business on these fantastic Instagram tools we've just heard about, but I will do something wrong. Maybe because I did something wrong in the past. The bad news is you will. You will. But it doesn't matter. So I've made every social media cock-up you could possibly think of. My handiwork is featured in the pages of Private Eye, on Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe. I wiped quite a lot of money off the stock market. I'm not going to tell you how I did that when there's a live stream going, but come and ask me afterwards. You will make mistakes, and it's fine. People often very overestimate how damaging they can be. A really common fear, I will go viral badly. You might. It's quite hard to do, and actually most people tend to forget about it, even if it did. But I would be very surprised if you did actually go viral badly. It really is quite overstated. And then there's this. We're asking you to show yourself to the world. People will see me, and that's quite nerve-wracking. The thing I like about social media is that you can, to quite a big extent, control what you put out to the world and control that image. But that is something that's hard. I don't have a magic answer for you, but it's a really common feeling. And if you do feel that way, you're not alone. But I think this is the key of imposter syndrome. I will get found out. Someone will go, hang on, you're blagging this, aren't you? The answer is you won't, don't worry. You've just seen everyone put their hands up. Everyone feels the same way. So don't let that hold you back. I really hate this. I hear this too much. Too much. And the truth is, you are more talented than you think. You are better than the worst thing you have done. You are more successful than the biggest mistake you have ever made. And you are good enough. And I think the power of ideas is that when you have them, you might not feel like you deserve to have that idea and for it to succeed. Bullshit. So don't let fear hold you back, but you will keep feeling it, unfortunately. Always try and push forward, okay? Now, I don't mean necessarily huge, grand ideas. I'm going to launch a business. I'm going to transform my life. It could be something quite small. But why don't we just try and do something, push forwards and see what positive things you could do to improve your life? When we started Social Media Spouses, we kind of soon realized that there were like three kinds of people, and I suspect most of the people in this room will fall into one of these buckets. The first group of people who want a job in social media. So you want to work from home, you want to work either for an organization or maybe as a social media consultant. And I suppose that can feel quite scary if you want to go down this path, because you see other social media consultants and people thriving, and it might feel a bit intimidating. But you are really employable if you have these skills. They are really in demand. And I think the fantastic thing about the Social Media Spouses group is that how much people support one another. So let's share jobs, let's share interview tips. I will say, if anyone ever wants me to look at a CV, totally fine. Never a problem. The second group of people, I was just so surprised is maybe the wrong word, but I was so impressed with how entrepreneurial military spouses are. And sometimes it's forced upon them because it's the only way to make a bit of extra money or to have a job that fits around your lifestyle. I've just been blown away by it. It's so incredible. And I would certainly say that if you are already running your own business, well, you're already much further along the tracks than my grandfather was when he had the back, all he had was the boot in his van and a few tools. So you're really on the right direction. This group, really important. So when the group first started, it was really positive and wonderful, and we saw plenty of people in the first two. But there was this quieter bunch who started to say, actually, they felt it a little bit intimidating. They didn't have a business. They didn't necessarily want to work in social media. They just wanted to use these skills to feel a bit more connected to people, to feel less lonely, less isolated. I suppose the good news about this point, or the terrifying news, is he's all right, is fine, jolly good. No one has any idea. It's fine if you feel this way. Very few people know exactly what they want to do. Don't worry about it. Just try stuff, and don't let what other people get passionate about make you feel that because you're not passionate about it, well, maybe you should be, or you're failing somehow. No. Don't worry if you're one of these people, okay? Now, I wanted to share this photo. This is the first photo I could find of myself with my daughter, Isla. It's her 5th birthday tomorrow. We've got Elsa and Belle coming. It's very exciting. For some reason, they need 20 minutes to get changed when they arrive. I don't know why. I thought they were princesses. But this is the first photo I could find. And in this photo, as this was taken, I was in a terrible state. Terrible. So my daughter's birth was incredibly traumatic for my wife, for me, and for Isla. And when this photo was taken, I was seriously depressed, and I had pretty bad trauma from that. And I remember for the first probably 2-3 months, I was like a zombie. So I was going to, this was before BFBS, I was going to the job I did not like. And I thought I was coping because I was turning up on time and washing and going home, you know, on time. But I was like a zombie. I was just useless. And what that time taught me was that life can really kick you sometimes in ways that you don't ever expect. And it was quite difficult when people would ask, oh, so your daughter was born. Surely when she was born was the happiest day of your life. Bollocks, was it? No, it was horrible. But I thought, I'm always going to feel this way. This is me now. This horrible thing has happened, and I'm going to feel this way forever. And I'm really pleased to say I don't feel that way anymore, and I got through it. But for a long time, I just couldn't see anything positive coming. I couldn't think that I could feel any differently. And I think that comes back to people limiting themselves. If you are in a hard place, or you can't think of a way to use these skills or to feel more positive about yourself, it can sometimes be really hard to know how to do it. And I think all I could say is just connect with people and try stuff. Try stuff until you find what works for you. Don't let anyone else tell you this is the way you should deal with that, or this is what you should be doing in your life. But I thought it was really important to share that because I just couldn't see a positive way forward after this time. What I would love is that if you have ideas of ways to improve your life, you have that opportunity, but I would like you to think ever so slightly bigger. Think of that idea, and it doesn't need to be a business, it doesn't need to be something big and grand, but just think ever so slightly bigger, because you know what? You do deserve it, and it is achievable. This was an idea. All these people sitting in a room, this was an idea. Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook was an idea. He won't like me saying this, but it was made to rate the attractiveness of Harvard students. But it is now this fantastically powerful tool that connects all these people. It was an idea. So it's quite remarkable, really. And this quote's from a book I love. And this really reminds me of particularly the Social Media Spouses program, because it is like there is this talent, you know, it was there, dormant, just waiting to wake up and express itself in all these different ways. And that's why I so enjoy going into the Social Media Spouses group and seeing what people are doing, how they're supporting each other, how they're helping each other. And there is so much dormant talent. I think that's why it's so important. We don't let us doubting ourselves holding us back from achieving what is possible. So, yeah, what if something much more positive is possible? What if you do deserve something positive for yourself? What if you can build a really successful business and change your life for the better? But I would also say, you know, what if you are the one with all the potential and the talent and the opportunity? Because I suspect you are. And it is so important to keep remembering that. What if? What if that idea, that you have, that hope, could become something real. Thank you.